Hello and welcome to the Dance of the Soul. I'm Natasha Venter, and I am here as a multi-life intuitive who is a medium and an energy seer. I'm also a spiritual counselor. I love to support people going through life. I also do Feng Shui. I'm a Feng Shui advisor, and I call myself an advisor because I love to call it practical in Feng Shui. Change your environment, change your world, change your knowings, and I love to practice the feng shui, and I can do that visually or through virtual, or I can do that in person. Depends on where you're at. I love to give guidance, and we were just talking here that if you are looking me up, please. I've been changing my name up, rebranding. So if you find me on any page like my YouTube channel, or you look for me for my YouTube, click on the name because that will send you to the most recent page that I have. I had somebody who was looking for me, and they said, this is a video. You don't have very many videos. And I go, I have over 500 videos on my YouTube channel. And they go, I said, click on my name. There you are. Yeah, so if you can do that. And this is my partner in life in this dance of the soul. And I just love Regan. Hi Regan, how you doing? I
Hi.
hope you've been having a blessed week here coming up since I seen you last.
Yep. Busier than ever. I had four life between life sessions in 3 days, and it was like I was just. Patty said she didn't even know I was here. She'd walk by my office, and I was there. You know, um, all day long. I mean, she went to bed because I had a evening session, so it was like she didn't see me for 3 days because I'm just in here. Where she didn't realize I had clients in here, and then I did a Zoom session with somebody, and whew, it was amazing. Um, for those of you who are new or who see this later, my name is Regan, and I'm a life between life therapist with the Newton Institute. And Natasha and I blend really together with our skills as we help people to expand their awareness to what lies beyond the physical world. With the Newton Institute, we have a process that allows you to have. It's like people say it's like a near-death experience without the death part. It's kind of a joke, but that's what happens. Where we using hypnosis, you go in a deep state of trance, and you actually have the inward ability to be like a medium in a sense, is that you begin to see things from the other side, where you meet your guide, see loved ones that have passed on, actually go before counsel that'll answer any pre-prepared questions you have about your life to find out what your mission is, what you hope to learn, and so forth. There's so much more to it than that. We've been doing this with about 70,000 people so far. So that's what we do. A lot of my clients see Natasha afterwards because sometimes they get so much information, they're trying to process it all. And a session with Natasha helps you kind of clear things a little bit and focus, because it changes your life. It's like you're going down a different road now, and it's just a beautiful thing that we do. And today, Natasha, you can tell us the subject about love today, right?
Yes,
So
I was actually asked by, I'm gonna call it the universe of love. There was a couple of guides. The angels kind of came in last night, and I was asking what should we talk about tomorrow, and they said, I want you to talk about love because
yeah.
love has been a confusing conversation for many because we come from the humanness of what we perceive love to be.
Yeah.
When you're on the other side, and those who have had the near death experience has really talked about this new divine love that they're
Hmm.
feeling. And I that's what I walk with. I walk with divine love, and I don't know if everybody feels that when they're with me, but at the same time though, there's this dance that I just understand that sometimes there's something bigger than this, than what we're going through, and having that understanding of what divine love can be really here for us. That's what the angels really wanted us to talk about today, to help bring that more in. And I've been hearing a lot more of that, and so I thought, okay, it's the blanket thing that they want us to talk about.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, we talk about, love is, every show we have is about love, but you know that seems to be the theme lately too, because Patty and I just went to we just went to, we drove, oh gosh, almost 4 hours one way, and then went to, it was a 4 hour, we were there for a seminar for 5 hours, drove 4 hours back. But that's how important
Wow.
it was to go see. It was this healer who teaches people how to self-heal. And it was amazing. He's a reverend now, and he goes around, he speaks at all these big conferences and things. And we were lucky to see him at one of my clients' homes because he decided to do these things for free. So we only had about 17 of us there in a real nice setting. And he was one that he had cancer of the face and everything, where they had to pretty much take his nose off and reconstruct his face and everything. And you'd never know by looking at him. And he talks about how he did it through just loving himself, and he was talking about that love is just all there is, and reminded me of a lot of things you do, Natasha, and that you've been teaching me about loving the different parts of your body. Like he said, when the surgeon says, well, I got to cut your nose off and I got to do this, he said, okay. He didn't ever complain. He didn't ever and he did it all without any painkillers or anything afterwards. All he did was he just says, I love you, face, I love you, face, and the healing I'm receiving and whatever. And there was a woman there that testified this, and they took pictures of him, of his face, and it almost reconstructed itself in less than 2 months. The
Wow.
doctors say it would take years. And he said he just watched it. It was almost in fast motion how his face all came back together. You can hardly see, just very, I think he's had 17 different surgeries at all, but you can't tell. But if you really look, you can see a few small scars. And the doctors can't even believe it. But he says he just does it with love. And then he showed us a few of the self-healing techniques, which was great, that I can use in my product, how you channel the white light coming through yourself to others. And then he went around to each of us, and he would touch us like this with that, and then he would whisper something individual to each of us in there as he was bringing white light in, to kind of show us how he did it. But he ended up about a half an hour discourse just on love, and it was so cool, about how you have to love every part of yourself, love you
Mm-hmm.
as soul, but then love this physical body too, and every part of it. And
Yep.
and how that key is what puts you in a different, puts you almost like in a, I don't know, puts you into your spiritual self, like
It
you're human,
does.
but yet you're this spiritual part of yourself that's that's doing that. So it was really good. He was just an amazing human being. Um, and so, but I just felt led. And that's what's interesting, because you just got this thing about talking about love, and the whole thing in my life in the last 2 weeks has been about love.
Mm-hmm.
Even my significant other and I here, we just decided all at once, and I told, I think last week, that we wanted to get engaged, not to be married, but to be engaged, to get to a whole different level of commitment and spiritual responsibility with each other. So I have it all planned out. I sent her an invitation. We're in Monterey in June. I think it's the first weekend in June. We'll be in Monterey, and they have a place there called Lovers Point, which has a spiritual thing there. We've
Mm-hmm.
been there a few times, right on the ocean. So I told her what time to show up, because I'm going to have her. Well, she doesn't know yet, but I'm going to have her come by. I'm going to go ahead of time because I got to set everything up, and she's going to come by Uber, and then I'll be there. But we have a time for the exchanging of vows ceremony, and then we'll have lunch, and then we have dinner planned to a place. Will be our 2-person reception at this dinner place, and then later that night will be the consummation of the agreement. So it's going to be this whole planned out thing, but it's about love. It's about, we're in this
Mm-hmm.
relationship, and we've been in it for 9 years. We never found the need to be married, but we do see this as love progresses, and you want to unfold with another person as your partner. It's nice to have kind of a contract between the two of you, that you're going to be there for each other to help each other evolve. So,
Exactly.
and then
Exactly.
here's what's weird. Last night, just out of the blue, she says, I think we need to go see this movie. It's not a movie we would even go to normally, but she said, let's just go. I think we need to go. So we went there, and it's this movie about book club with the four older women,
Yes.
that this is their
Yeah,
second
I've heard
movie.
of it. Yes.
Yeah, and so it's all about Jane Fonda is going to be married, so her friends, they take her on a bachelorette thing over to Europe, and on the bachelor party they over there to get their on the bachelor excursion to do in Italy, so it's beautiful. You get to see Italy, but they get her dressed there and everything, and they surprised her that he's coming over there to marry her. So they're doing the ceremony, and he's got the ring in his hand, and she's talking about how much she loves him and everything like this, and just loves him and loves him. But she says, "I can't marry you." And then he says, "I knew that, So he wrote this thing. He says, "I knew you were going to do that. I knew you were going to say you can't love me because you've always wanted your freedom. You didn't want the ring to symbolize that you're in some kind of cage or anything like that." So he reads this whole thing about he can't see life without her, that she's the most beautiful person he ever met, and he wants to be here for the rest of his life. So he gets on his knees and says, "Will you please not marry me?" And and so we looked at each other, and she started crying. Patty and I'm crying, she's crying. I think, why were we led to go see this movie this week out of
Yeah,
all things that we normally even wouldn't go to? So
exactly.
we can see how we've opened ourselves to love here, and so now with the connections from the other side, they're filling in all the things we need to do to get to that point.
We need to get to that point. And I can
Yeah.
tell you that I witnessed that journey. I'm going to call it a journey. And there was 2 times in my life. And hi, Ward. Ward said hi.
Oh, there's Ward again. Hi, Ward.
Yeah. Hi, Ward. That I really witnessed this inner growth of love for me twice. The first time was after my mom passed away of Lou Gehrig's disease, and it was shortly after my dad passed away. So I had, 2 new kids, and my mom with Lou Gehrig's disease, and it was just one of those. I'm going to call it the year that you flip your life over 3 or 4 times in 1 year, and you just go forward type thing. And
Yeah.
I was struggling with love. I was really struggling with. I couldn't even be a mom. I couldn't be a wife. I didn't know who I was. And so I had to figure out how to start loving through my depression. And that's where a lot of people, I think, get stuck is that, if they're depressed, how can you love, right? Well, I know for me that I had to practice, and I started loving my little pinky on my toe, on my foot,
Mm-hmm.
My little toe. And I just said, okay, love you. Thank you for balancing me. I know that you don't get very much acknowledgement, but I just appreciate you. Thank you. And then I started looking at my other toes, and thank you for that. And, this was not necessarily a day and night decision that I was making, but this was a process. And it took me probably a good month and a half to get through, to even get up my legs, because I was struggling so much with self-love, because I knew that I couldn't love my heart. I couldn't love my mind. I couldn't love where I was at. I was going through that year after grief, and it was just so overwhelming. And at the same time, my husband wasn't doing well with his alcoholism. And so there was just a lot going on. And so in order to focus on something that was physical, I would physically fit. I would start really getting into, oh, knee, look how you bend. Oh, I can feel the ligaments in you bending and twisting. And every time I move you, thank you very much for doing that for me. So that was one time where I was really getting into, that going forward. And, this was over, let's see, my 4 year, my oldest was 4 at that time, and now turning 30. So it's been a couple years that I've practiced the self-love, right?
Yeah.
And then the next time was, and I can tell you that I've done this love thing several times in my life, but then the next big moment that I was unearthing was a time when my husband got sober. And I was really loving this moment of change, but I was showing him, I was reflecting to him what love was, because him being the alcoholic, starting drinking at 12, 13, 14 years old, he never really felt those years of stretching and pulling of what love was, because he always had, even though he had girlfriends, he always had something between him and them. There was the drugs, the alcohol, the pot, the alcohol, and that. So there was always something between him and that. And now that he was getting sober, he had to figure out what love was. And sometimes, you know, I would come up to him and I would just put a hand on his chest and I'd said, I love you. And I wasn't talking to the man. I was talking to the emotion of, holy freaking frack, you know, what's happening to me? You
Yeah.
know, or that inner child, that, you know, the boy that was, you know, 14 years old trying to figure out how to be, because the last time he knew anything was, you know, when he was drinking, right?
Yeah.
And so I would just put my hand on him, or there's times where I would go up to him and put my arms around him, and he'd look down at me because he's 6 foot and I'm 5 foot, look down at me and he'd say, you're not letting go, are you? I said, nope. And then pretty soon he would put his arms around me. After about doing that for a year, I would say that I would walk up to him and he'd open his arms and put his arms around me
Mm-hmm.
within that year, because of the fact that I allowed him to be vulnerable. And I think that that's the thing about love. When you're talking about it at this level, it is about vulnerability.
It
And if
is.
you can find a partner who can be vulnerable with you like you have, and now I can say the man I've always wanted to be married to, you know, is starting to be real vulnerable with me,
Mm-hmm.
that it is a stretch and pull of what is it. And I can say right now, our humanness, the humans that we are, love to put restriction on love. Well, I'll love you if you do this. I'll respect you if you do that. Oh, you did this to me, I'm not going to love you in the way that I think that you want to be loved, you know. And so it's getting beyond that, and it is about, and if you have to practice with your dog, cat, or something, because there is this moment where you have to be willing, I don't want to say to get hurt, but to get discomfortable when you are in a vulnerable place, because people are going to disappoint you. Animals are going to disappoint you. But how do you rebound after that when you're talking about love? And Ward says here, he says, why be sad when you have a warm smile? Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. Because you know, I'm human, and you know, when you're, you know, within what, 7 years, I lost my mom, my dad, and my uncle, and I'm an only child, only grandchild, and I was having kids at the same time. I was, you know, and my husband was an alcoholic, and it was a rough year, and it wasn't that I was sad but I had to figure out who I was again, because when you're going through grief, it's like flipping the coin over and saying, you know, that I got to be my new normal. And that's who I was figuring out, was who my new normal was.
Yeah.
And I went
Go.
from being shy and quiet and not speaking to being who I am today. And my husband even says that I'm not the same woman he married. And so I really had to figure out who I was. And that was starting to like my little toe, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, people say, well, where do I start with love? Well, you have plenty of work to do when you get started, because self-love, I think, is the number one thing people should concentrate on, because everything comes from that. I mean, if you can't love yourself, it's hard to love other people, you know. And all the gurus, all the teachers, Jesus, everybody that's been out there, they all talk about love thyself. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's the number one thing. And um, the only way you can love yourself is to forgive yourself for all the screw ups you do, you know. In other words, a lot of times, I like you're saying, Natasha says, well, sometimes we don't know better to do better. And, you know, sometimes we know better, but we still don't do better. But, you know, when we make mistakes, the best thing you can do is to not, you know, to forgive yourself and then try to do better the next time. Uh, that's how all the avatars, all the, you know, spiritual teachers have come down. That's been their core teaching, is forgiveness, you know. So, you know, if God will forgive you, you know, you think, God forgives us, why can't we forgive ourselves? You know, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you know, that should be the example right there. Um, and everybody, you know, I don't know anybody who hasn't screwed up. You know, I mean, we all do it. We all make mistakes. We take wrong turns. But then again, the wrong turns we make are usually things that end up teaching us something. You know, so a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times the wrong turns we take, even, you know, like we become grateful for those in a way. Says, well, you know, that's how I learned to be, you know, a better person. Um,
Mm-hmm.
The other way, I think, just a little thing that helps with self-love is to just think about these little random acts of kindness you can do during the day. That's a form of self-love, because as you're giving to others, it kind of comes back to you, to help you, to uplift you, So you can just pick up a piece of trash that's not yours, someone dropped on the street or something, and put it in the trash, and you'll feel good. Smile at a clerk who's not smiling because they're being like a robot at the counter, and like this, and just, look them in the eye and say, hey, thank you very much. You're doing a good job. Something like that. Be surprised how appreciative people are, that are working, when they hear someone that acknowledges that they're alive, that they're present. Tell the people you're with that you love them every time you see them. Tell your dog. But again, like we're talking about, part of loving yourself is loving every part of yourself. Your emotional, your physical, and your spiritual part of yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
just get to it, and start loving everything, and just see how much better you feel about yourself. When you begin some sort of practice that way. But there's different kinds of love, like we were talking about before we came on the air, right, Natasha? I mean, there's a certain love you have for children, your spouse, for coworkers. Love comes in many different forms, and we express it in many different ways to the people that are around us.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is people always say, like, instead of saying, my heart breaks for you, I'll say, I'll send you my love, because of the fact that we all have these different things that are happening with us. But I can say that I love someone because they're human. you know I don't know you from day one, but I can say that I love you because you're human. You are alive, you are worthy. I love, a snail. I was having on the phone with a friend today, and a snail was, I had like 7 snails right in front of me, and I know they're eating my, plants and stuff like that. And I'm like going, how do I kill something that I want to love? You know,
Right.
I'm like,
I do that. Yeah.
you know, and they're snails, right? But it's that, hi Veronica, that it's one of those things. So I say I love you because you are human. Now I can say that, like maybe a friend, I'll love them a little differently, and then my kids, I love them differently, and but they're all in the same bucket of love. But there's just a different layer of enlightenment that I have with each one. And then, I love my husband, and then I love myself. There's these different layers of enlightenment. The people that are cash register, or the, someone at the checkouts area, I love them differently than I may love a kid at the school, right? So how do you love? It's not necessarily that you have to have everybody on the same level, but you can have the same basis of love for everyone.
Yeah.
Where does that love come from? It comes from compassion. It comes from understanding that, hey, we're all human. It comes from that vulnerability of saying that, you know, you know, I'm not perfect. Why should anybody else be perfect?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that you can have that divine love and still have a little bit of judgment. But the thing is, so check in. Where does it come from? Does it come out of spite and anger, or does it come out of passion and understanding, and saying, I don't like what that person's doing, you know? And that's okay, because, like I was saying with you earlier, that love does have boundaries. Love does have boundaries. It does have restrictions. It's not necessarily, though, that it has restrictions of, I can't love you because you didn't put the dishes away. You know, it's
Yeah.
about, I'm going to have boundaries, and I'm going to have a little bit of tough love. Let's say if my kid, was still living at home and they didn't do the dishes like they were asked, and I give them 24 hours to get it done. I'm not one that, I'm not I don't like to do things when people snap their fingers. So why should I expect somebody else to do it? Right. So I give them 24 hours. And if it doesn't happen in 24 hours, well, there's a boundary. I don't love you any less. I don't respect you any less. Yeah. Respect is a little dance there. But, as if you don't respect me, it's hard to respect other people, right? And
Yeah.
so what do we do with that? But I still love, and it might have to have a little tough love, right? Uh, so how do we negotiate this when we have these dances around us of relationships and situations and this kind of thing? And Ward said something earlier, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it, so I haven't posted it yet. So maybe Regan, you can read it. No.
Okay. If we were to say that you and I do not exist, but know each other because our thoughts
Consist.
I wonder if because our thoughts exist or consist, would you still recognize me when I no longer see? And could I still find the parts that made us, you and me? Sound like a poem.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you, Ward, for putting it there.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then
So I'm not. It's that's a little over my head a bit, but let me give you some background on on what we found out in the Newton Institute research. We found out that on the other side, all these 70,000 people gone on the other side have been able to visit what we call a soul group. And these are souls that you normally incarnate with. It's like an acting troupe of people, souls traveling around. And some soul groups, might have 6 or 7, some are 20 or 30. And these are souls that, like your best buddies. And some of them, are more, you're closer to than others, like what we would call a soulmate, sometimes.
mhm.
And in all these cases we have, it's very interesting to see the different configurations and the different ways all these soul group people love each other. So when we're on the other side, you just love everything and everybody. It's like that. But there's some others because the souls you identify with. Well, here's a case history we had, which was very confusing. Um, this woman was married, had a couple of kids, and then became a new coworker at work, and she couldn't understand why she was so attracted to this person. But it was more than a physical attraction. It was more like she just felt she knew this person, and they just became very close at work. What began to bother her because she's married, she got 2 kids, she's faithful to her husband, but yet there's something that she just begins to really love about this coworker. So when she found out about this work, she went to a Life Between Life therapist from the Newton Institute. And when she goes into trance, she goes to the afterlife, and she asked to speak to this soul of this coworker. And she did, and found out that that was her soulmate. That was the person that on the other side she's closest to. But they had agreed this time that when she came down, they weren't going to be together. She needed to learn other things, and this other soul who she's married to needed to be with her to learn those things, and she needed to learn some things that other soul she's with could teach her. So this time he just came down to as a co-worker, just to support her and to be her friend. Now once she learned about that, her human self, it was a little difficult for a little bit, but when she got this bigger picture that it's all about love, and so she went back and stayed happily married to the person she was with, didn't have an affair or anything like that, because that wasn't the purpose of this thing. But that she felt that love, so she still loved her coworker, but she didn't act out on it in a way that you would be when you were like married or something. Just stayed close to him in a spiritual level, So when you talk about recognize souls recognizing each other, that was this recognition of soul.
Exactly, because I think a lot of us forget that when the kind of love that was intentionally called for us to talk about today, it's not a sexual love.
Right.
It's not a sexual, but yet there's a lot of times where that love. Thank you for that story, Regan, because this is a conversation we need to have.
Yeah.
Because it's not, when you're talking about this love of another being, that it's not a sexual love, even though sexual love can be added to it.
Yeah.
But this is a love of compassion and understanding for someone. I have a couple people that it's in my life, and actually there was another couple that came over to my house, and I was talking with her, and the gentleman was talking to my husband, and the gentleman was saying, whenever I'm around Natasha, it's like seeing my sister. It's like seeing someone I can't get enough of, because I love her so much, and I feel the same way with him. It's like we hug each other, and it's like, and I'm grateful my husband understands
Yeah.
this, or he trusts me enough to understand this process. And there's another person that actually is in the opposite sex, and when I'm with him, there's no sexual feelings but it's like talking with my brother. It's that
Yeah.
soul brother, it's that soul calling, it's that, and I can sit down, and people who would watch us, could get the impression that we're having an affair, because there's so much
Yeah.
energy being passed around us. Hi, Paula. The it is that feel, that energy, but there's nothing that is going beyond. But at the same time, though, let's say if one of them wasn't married, and if I wasn't married, and there was no attachments, we could add to that. And
Huh.
it wouldn't be a bad thing, but I wouldn't say that it would be a good thing either, because sometimes when you have that, like my dad and I, we were soul twin. I wouldn't call us twin flames, but we could be in that twin flame conversation, because we were
Hmm.
so close together, and we had so much compassionate love with each other. But we chose in this lifetime to be my dad and then a daughter. And so with that we did have, my mom didn't really want to get involved sometimes, because we were just having so much loving communion together. And I'm using that word communion because it is about oneness with someone,
Yeah.
and it's being willing to have that, and not going to the sexual side, like this person who went and got the session. She found out that she could probably have one of the best girlfriend relationships without having to play on it being attracted in that other way, because
Yeah.
it wasn't meant to be that other way.
Yeah. It's interesting. I know a woman, a good friend of mine. She wanted to have a close relationship with another woman, girlfriend, somebody to do things with, and because some of her friends had moved away in that, and she was trying to think, well, how can I do this?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, what does Word say here? It says, my mom always said, if you want to love your partner the rest of your life, it needs to feel like your best friend. Yeah, yeah, and that's
Exactly.
that's how everybody feels in these soul groups. I mean, it's like you're at a party with, and you just love them all. I mean, when we come down here to learn, we decide, okay, hey, how about let's come down, let's be brothers, or I'm going to be your mother this time, and you're going to be my son, because the different combinations of relationships cause different types of learning, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and the sexual part, and which is for your significant other that way, has its own special learning, and that's part of the learning, having that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but there was another example. I'm just I don't know if my light went out here and it threw me, or what the heck. Just burned out. All of a sudden, I got. Well, there it is. I don't know what happened. There we go. So now I have a personal example of something that happened to me, which was a big, huge learning experience. I was between marriages, and I met this woman who was, we just, from the moment we met, and for 6 months we were together, we just had the most fun time. I mean, everything we did, it was just like, it was playful and fun and everything. But we came to a point after about 6 months, we kind of looked at each other and said, this isn't going anywhere, is it? Like, we're not going to get married, or it's going to be that kind of thing. And it confused both of us. I had planned to, so we decided to kind of break up that way, with like thinking that we were going to be like, she was going to be my next love interest or something, that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I had tickets to go to Chicago from California for a spiritual conference. So I'm at the spiritual conference, I'm meditating in my room, and as I was meditating, I had kind of an out of body experience where I was this soldier coming home from war, and it was so interesting because here I meditate. I'm not asleep or anything, and all of a sudden I'm transported. I see like a past life. I'm coming home as a soldier, and I'm rushing home. I see my house is on fire. There's a big pile of hay, and I see my wife with face down there. She's got red hair. I turned her over, and there was this redheaded woman, and I went, "Oh my God, that's my sister in this lifetime." It was the strangest feeling, but you'd almost have to have been there and experience what I did to realize that it was a true thing. And then
Mm-hmm.
here's this little girl running up to me, like a 3, 4 year old little girl, and I grabbed her and I just held her. And as I grabbed her, I went, "Oh my gosh, this is Kathy in this lifetime, who was that woman I was with for 6 months." And I realized that that love I had for her was just a soul love. It wasn't
Uh-huh.
like a sexual, going to be my wife love, but it was as pure and just as important, having the love of a child, and that somehow in this lifetime she had come and just to help me in a sense to get through this period between, divorcing and between when I would meet my next significant other. And she was there for me. And I realized, and I hadn't seen her in 28 years. And I looked her up 2 weeks ago, and I found her and called her, and she was happy to talk to me because we hadn't talked like 28 years. And I had to tell her, I said, "We're getting older now, and I just wanted to tell you how important it was that you were in my life and how you helped me to get to where I am today by being there and being this like loving friend." It felt like we were like two kids in the neighborhood, a boy and a girl, and they grow up just in the neighborhood, and they be like Forrest Gump
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, only it was just this love of another soul. So that was a big lesson to me about the different kinds of love and how powerful each kind of love can be,
It is. It
and it shows
is.
up in your life. And it,
Exactly. And Paula says here that you plan your relationship that way. You can play your kind of like a soul contract.
yeah,
And I would say that a soul contract is a little bit different than love of a soul being with another love soul being. Because a contract, like my husband and I, we had a soul contract we had to work out. Now that meant tough love.
yeah,
It meant a lot of tough love. It meant, I've had other soul contracts that come in and they are loving beings to teach me that tough love, teach me my
yeah,
experiences, my lessons. Now, when we're talking about love, how can you help your contractual, your soul contract with someone? The love that you have for something or someone can help support the change. Now, what I can say is that like with my husband, I'm using this as an example, is that we had a soul contract that we had to finish up in our last in the this first part. So when my husband decided to get sober, we ended that contract and
oh,
we were able to start a new contract.
oh,
So
that's awesome.
now we are walking a new contract that we are going to continue if we so choose in other lifetimes, because we are stretching and pulling and negotiating our contract. But what did we do to create this new soul work together was that we figured out more love. We're stretching and pulling the love conversation. you know when you're an alcoholic, you like to control, you like to live in the more negative side. You have these dances. And so how did I heal that? By holding the path that we were on with love and compassion. Now I had boundaries. I didn't have restrictions, but I had boundaries. And with that, and there's a difference between restriction and boundaries. Now
Hmm.
restriction would be is that I'm gonna love you if only if you do this and this and this and this.
Yeah,
But my boundary is that, honey, this is not comfortable for me. I don't like this. We need to change this. This is an old pattern and we need to change this. Now
yeah,
that's a boundary, not a restriction. Now I'm going to say there's a little bit of a restriction, because if he started drinking again, I would have to think about, are we going to stay married, right? Because I
Yeah.
didn't like that person. I don't want to go back there. So that
Yeah.
might be a restriction in his mind that he has. But, really, do I have it? It's a cause and effect. If he does start drinking, I'm not going to restrict him not to. That's his choice, right?
Well, yeah, and part of self-love is setting boundaries. In other
Mm-hmm.
words, and setting them in the right way. So you don't not just a doormat for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But you letting people know, and that's how you love yourself. A lot of people, like I've had struggled with that throughout my life. Like on the Enneagram, as we talk about once in a while, I'm a 9 on the Enneagram scale, which means I'm a peacemaker. But I'd rather not. Yeah, you too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. We don't like to fight. I mean, we'll do whatever we can to avoid conflict and everything that way. But we have to be a healthy 9 in the Enneagram thing. You have to learn to set boundaries. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so that's part of our learning experience. And I'm still learning that. I'm getting a lot better, which I feel good about myself. But it's a process. Of that. So um, love. Like the gentleman that in the conference we went to, where he healed himself without medications, everything, when they had to reconstruct his whole face, cutting his nose off, and everything. And you should have seen, because we saw pictures of what he looked like, and it was like, oh my gosh, he just had cancers, all this black cancer all over his face, and they had to cut it off and everything. And um, when he told him he had cancer, he said, okay, and he started loving the cancer. You know, I love you, cancer. Boom. You're here to teach me something. Boom, boom, boom. And it's just, it's amazing. He's had 7 heart attacks, in his life, and he just says, people can't believe. You just like, well, thank you, heart attack. Boom, boom. Here I am, and he's still, he's almost 70. I think he's 78 years old now, and he's been helping so many people. They just they can't believe he just has such this loving attitude, even though he's been through some horrendous things
Mm-hmm.
in his life. Um, and that's the whole
But
thing. It's like every conflict we have, we're going to learn something if we're open to it.
exactly.
No,
And those conflicts are about tough love for us, or
yeah,
those conflicts are here to teach us. And I know for me, like, even just sitting here, I was putting the understanding of, I love you, cells, the cells of my body. Have we ever said thank you and I love you to cells? And I know when I feel that,
yeah,
I mean, I feel my body kind of in a I don't want to call it a tingle, but it's almost like the chills start going over you. Have anybody really said, "Hey, DNA, thank you for healing. I love you for that." And it's a love that's not like, "Oh, oh, body, you have cancer." It's like, no, it's a gratitude love. It's that warm blanket, it's that warm feeling, and that's what we're working for, is finding that more whole self of ourselves, that enlightened self of ourselves. So Ward says here, thank you for your comments, guys.
yeah,
This
Ward.
adds to the conversations, and I
Sure
love the
does.
stretch and pull of these conversations. I search for my soul by looking into my mind with my thoughts. That's a good way to do it. Now your soul is not your mind, though. Your soul is your knowing, in my perspective. And I want to invite that to look at, because your soul does have a soul mind. I have an understanding, and my understanding, and that might be more your higher self.
Yeah,
So with that, check in with more your higher self mind. Check in with that higher mind, because the mind here, the mind that's in the physical body, if that's what you're talking about, that can be pretty limiting on its concepts. I've been lucky with my mind. It's been willing to work with my concepts. That's why I can move from one dimension to the other real easily, because my mind's willing to do it. And so with that it is, because your thoughts are your emotions, and your thoughts are your who are your thoughts. I'm going to invite that. Who are your thoughts? So I would go up to your higher self to
yeah,
get more of an understanding of what your soul is asking you to do.
And in these sessions, these life between life sessions that I do with clients, they actually can come face to face with their higher self.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they blend and they start talking about the self in third person, and I'll say, "Am I talking to so and so's higher self?" And they go, "Yeah." And I go, "Wow, cool," And all of a sudden, they're talking to the person who's in trance now. Their higher self is talking to the person in trance, giving them advice on what they should be doing. And sometimes they're
Mm-hmm.
talking about, if you weren't so stubborn, you'd be able to do this. It's like, it's the craziest thing. So
I love it.
what I did when I had this last week, when I had one of my clients, they were merged with their higher self, and I could tell I was talking to higher self. And I says, can you separate yourself for the moment so that my client in the now time can actually look at her higher self, just to see what her higher self looks like. And all of a sudden they were separated, and she was describing all these purples and blues and
Mm-hmm.
oranges, and that of the higher self. And then the higher self, this other part of us, because see, in this, what we've learned in this research is that when you decide to be you, you don't put all of yourself in the physical body. You keep about half of it home. So there's always your higher self, or there's always a part of each of us that's there. So in these sessions, you actually get to come face to face with that other part of yourself. And so what I do sometimes with my clients, I have them walk into their higher self then, and just feel how it feels to be whole, like all wise and all healing and everything like that. And my clients say, "Oh my gosh, it's the most beautiful feeling." And it's just so exciting to blend with that other part of yourself for a few moments, over there. So, yeah,
It
it's
really
this higher,
does.
yeah, we've pretty much proven it now, because we've had 70,000 people experience it. So that's pretty much telling you that, yep, we have our higher selves. And what's beautiful too is you can talk to the higher selves of people that are still alive in your life. So in other words, if you have some issues with a friend or your significant other or something, you talk to the higher selves over there and find out what's going on. And most of the time, well, here's an example. This married couple was having a lot of trouble. She was thinking about divorcing. She talks to the higher self of her husband over there, and he says, "Whoa, wait a minute." He says, "Our contract was to come down, that I was going to come down and be a difficult husband with you. I love you so much that I'm going to come down. I'm going to challenge you up and down in every way possible, because you need to learn patience and forgiveness." And so, wow, she realized that, because some people think when they go down and meet their soulmate, it's going to be all fun and giggles.
Exactly.
But
No, not all the
but
time.
right. But when you're in your higher selves there, and you go, "Hey, what can we learn by me going down and me challenging you on these things?" And we having to work on the relationship so that we can really learn. And I think what's beautiful, Natasha, is what you talked about, you and your husband now. And as I think with Patty and I now, we're going to another level now, like
Mhm.
reestablishing with these, commitment to each other. And what was so beautiful with this whole love thing, as we talked about today, it's the first time in my life I've equally shared with someone that is in tandem with me in this process of seeing these God sightings from the other side,
Ah,
as a
yes.
partner. It's like, did you see that? It's like you see a UFO and you look over at your partner. Did you see that? And you both saw it together, you know,
Love
rather
it.
than one saying, "No, I don't see it." You crazy, kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So love. It's just so good about talking about love today, because just self-love,
Love,
some
love, love.
people who don't have, people in their lives, have pets like their dogs or cats or something, and they have such a love connection. And I've met people that have been that way, where they have this connection with animals, and they realize that those souls are in their life to give them love and for them to give love,
Hmm.
so that they can learn,
It's it's a safer place to have that love. But I wanted to go back to something that Ward said, that,
Yeah.
and that's really cool. That I can actually that he was saying that I actually think my thoughts make me who I am, but that's my feeling, and I can honor that 100%, because the
Yes.
thoughts are who we are, but we're more than our thoughts.
Yeah, it's your higher level of awareness in that gives the mind the thoughts, and then the thoughts come through. I mean, we're in this physical vehicle here, right?
Exactly. And it's a bigger conversation than this moment. And so
Yeah.
we're just giving a highlight of these thoughts. It's not necessarily that we're trying to dishonor you for that. I mean,
Oh yeah,
it's
I think
totally,
he's right
and I'm
on
glad
that.
that yeah, I think that you should have your own truths, and thank you for that, because this is just a perception
Hmm.
and a perspectives that we're giving you that to hopefully more well round everybody. And I want to make that disclosure. But because our thoughts, my personality is my thoughts.
Yeah.
When I'm thinking, my husband always says, you're very gray about your thoughts. You're very ether, you're very left brain, you're really, it's like, and those are my thoughts, because I see the bigger picture. I see the knowings of things. I see oh, that's why that's happening. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I can process that, but those are my thoughts, which is my personality in a way, but my thoughts add to a lot of things. It's kind of like the hand. You need the pointer to grab on. You need these different parts of us, but basically it makes us who we are. So I could say our thoughts are part of maybe one or two fingers, right, that makes us who we are. And then we have our higher self, our soul. We have these different things that add in to those thoughts and those personalities that make us into that being. Because I can tell you that my guides and my angels connect with my thoughts to give me ideas to do my things. So that does help me to be me. So I'm not discounting our thoughts. I want to say that it's more than just our thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our intuition comes to us through our thoughts. Sometimes you go, oh my gosh, why did I just think of that? It's just like your higher self intuition. You just had this thought that went through. And sometimes, well, and that's how I think how they whisper to us sometimes. What's interesting sometimes is when we've talked to the other side, the angels and the guides on the other side, and like people that invent things, a lot of times they're whispering to a lot of different people. Some of them don't hear them, and then all of a sudden someone does, and they come up with this invention or this thing that they had to invent. And people sometimes have gone to patent it, and they found out that there's 3 or 4 other people that are working on the very same
The same
invention at the
thing.
same time. Yeah, because they're trying to get this out there, but they got to find someone who's receptive, whose intuition, is picking up on, and having them act on the help that they're getting through. What was interesting to me, I don't want to find out more about it, but when I was at this spiritual convention recently, someone came to me there and talked about that there was a booth that was further down from mine, and they were working on something they called the God phone. And they said that there was, I forget who they said was like Einstein and Tesla and something were working, channeling through people and how to build this device, which is like a phone to the afterlife, where you could actually, talk. And right now they're
Hmm.
working on yes and no answers or something. They're getting some success, but on how to build this device that somehow connects us. So that might be coming up I wouldn't be surprised, because things are opening up so much now,
Oh,
and
they are.
it's becoming much easier to access the other side.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
you
I
know.
think that's why we're having so many near-death experiences coming out and having conversations. And
Hmm.
we were told to have this conversation about love, and because of the fact that if we do think love, and my husband actually gets tired of me saying I love you, because of the fact that when we do say love, it changes who we are for the day. It's a
Yeah.
vibrational change. So if anything you get from today's show, please start putting the word love in your conversations.
Yeah.
I love that ice cream. I love being alive. I love my car. I love this. I love you. I love driving down the highway. I love, it's not necessarily that you have to be in understanding of it. It doesn't mean that you have to,
Yeah.
yeah, love is part of like, but at the same time though, try saying to yourself, I love you, cells. I love you, water. Try swirling water. I love you, water. I love you, drink.
Yeah.
Start changing the energy that's around you, and it
Yeah.
will amaze. I know for me that, with my dad having colon cancer and lung cancer, my mom having Lou Gehrig's disease, that I've loved my body into health. Now I'm going to tell you that, probably when I'm 100 years old, I can look back and say, see, I did it.
Hmm.
But at the same time, though, right now, I have an understanding. love is healing my body. Because I go into my colon and into my digestive system, and I actually send love through those my tubes of my
Yeah.
digestive system, and doing that work. But I work with divine love, and I asked Mother Mary and Jesus to come along for the ride with me energetically, to send that love with me, because sometimes if we don't know that ourselves in the humanness, because we've had so much life trauma, or we've had, misunderstanding what love was through people, that sometimes it's hard to know how to do love. And that's where, practice it by reaching out to someone else. If you have a dog that really loves you, ask them to practice loving with you. Let's
Yeah.
see. What did Ward say? He said a lot. Regan, can you read that for me, please?
Okay. Imagine I know someone. Okay, it's small on my screen here. It says,
Oh, sorry about
imagine
that.
I know someone you don't know about. That means that this person exists in my thoughts. I can imagine and think about him, but you never knew him, so he is not in your thoughts because you don't know about his existence. He can't be in your world until you see or hear him, and you can think about him with your thoughts. Well, it's interesting because, yeah, I mean, that's why each of us, all these billions of souls that are here now, there's billions of, like nobody has the same consciousness in a sense, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody has different experience. We all know different people. We all know things that each of us could teach each other, because we know things they don't know and they know things we don't know, you know, um, and that. So, yeah, some people, I mean, you can get all these esoteric thoughts, like, walking, and if a tree falls in the forest, is there a sound? Because there's nobody there to hear it, those
Mm-hmm.
kind of things. The Buddhists used to call those koans, I think, like koans or something, where they would give these like puzzles, and it would be like that, and they would give them to their students to think about things that don't seem to make any sense, but somehow they seem to make sense, kind of things,
Mm-hmm.
that way.
Exactly.
So,
And we don't know until we know. And we
yeah,
don't, we can't be where we don't, but I can also say though, that when I send love around this world, I get the understanding that there's a lot of things that I don't know about.
yeah.
And I even
Oh
send
boy.
love to those, because that's where I say a lot of times what I see and unsee, what I know and unknow, what I don't know, what I hear and don't hear, when I think and I don't think. It's like I try to incorporate the things I do and the things I don't in the work that I do, because it is about including all when I send love out. And my love is like Reiki. I send Reiki through the world. I send love out through, places. I don't send my heart. I don't send my knowledge. Well, I do send my knowledge, but I send love. But when I do send love to someone, let's say, like on the radio show yesterday, there was a woman who, sadly, her husband, it's me, committed suicide not even a month ago.
Yeah.
He was in so much pain, and she called up on the radio station. I'm on Martha Norwalk's on the third Sunday of every month, and she called up, and I held love for her. I sent her love, but I sent her my love, but I also sent the divine love to her. And actually, that divine love didn't even come through me. It went straight to her, right?
Yeah.
And the house angels sent love. And so really, we, until it's on our radar, we don't necessarily know, but we can send what we would like to those that we do know. And actually, we can do it to people we don't know, right? So okay, so he also added to, yes, indeed, I mean this by an opinion, and my truth I explain, I share, my wisdom is to the others to accept it and believe.
Yeah. In this research we're doing, we've probably answered, I guess, 1,000 questions about the afterlife. Like what happens when we die, where do we go, what do we do? you know, and we're getting all this information by putting it all together, by recording all these sessions. But the thing is that now we've got like 1,000 question answers about the afterlife, and they've uncovered like 1,000 more questions. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like there's this, and we just keep going deeper and deeper. And once you think you got a hang on it, and you realize it's almost like some of the wisest people, the gurus, talk about once they become enlightened, they realize that they don't know anything
Exactly.
because there's
You talk
so
to
much.
a 5-year-old and they know more than a 90-year-old,
Right?
right?
Yeah.
Because of the fact that the more we grow and change and be, the more we realize how more out of control we are. The more
Yeah.
we don't know, the more that, you know, but at the same time though, I'm going to say the more that I don't know, the more I have knowings that
Yeah.
are very secure in me that I know. I have a knowing of it, you know, and I didn't read my smarts. You know, I didn't hardly read a lot of books. I've actually scanned through books, but I didn't really read them. And so a lot of my knowings are just core knowings and truth.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say, though, my truth is my truth and yours is yours. So, you know, we have to discern what our truths are. And that's the thing is Regan and I are never here to push our beliefs on you. We're
Mm-mm.
here to support, just offer a belief to give you a perspective that maybe shift up your life a little bit.
Yeah, I think we just want to encourage people to go deeper into whatever they're searching for. You know, look for more answers because there's just more and more and more and more and more out there. You know, and life just becomes a joy once you start. You know, kind of searching, and you get all these different things that happens, and you see your life change. You know, change for the better.
Exactly.
Um,
So I love word. You're putting out some twists and turns here. Do we listen to what we hear, or do we hear what we listen to? You're great. I love
Lord,
your
I love it.
philosophy in this.
I do too.
You're
It's
doing
like
really
the
good.
See,
Uh,
that's the things you get when you have things like that. You know, when we challenge our mind to look at something in a different way, that's when you learn. You know, it shakes up your
mhm.
kind of takes the plaster, the hard plaster off ourselves to become, you know, more that way. But I would say that all this learning and everything that you get, it all boils down to that in this lifetime you've chosen to come here for a reason and you have a mission and a purpose. So what I would say to do is we need to get and keep searching for enough to help us in our mission and goal. And once that's done, then we'll learn more. It's like being, you know, when you get in your first class in college, you just can't learn everything. And you know, you have to take one class, concentrate on that. When you're done and you've got your your A plus in that lesson, then you go on to another and another and another. That way. And that seems to be the way of the world, or the way that we learn things. You know,
Yeah.
in closing, Dave, because I know we're going over
Yeah,
time here.
we're at that time, aren't we? And thank
Um,
you, Ward. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Ward.
I'm so grateful that we can be supportive
It's nice
in the
when it's
learning
here.
process because it
Yeah,
is about being supportive. It's not about take this, do this, because I don't have any expectations. I just offer. I offer,
I
and I know Regan does too.
had a client this last week, and a lot of it was about self love. See, it's this whole thing again, and
Hmm.
everything was about self love. And so they gave her some things to do. The council, she was before the council over there, and she says, "What are some things I can do to self love?" And you know, one of them was them talking to her about doing random acts of kindness, you know, forgiving herself for that sort of thing, um, and so I had this aha. I said, because I'm the facilitator here and I want her to get the most out of her sessions, I says, ask the guides over there if it would be possible that if you follow their advice and you become more loving and everything like that, can they give you a glimpse of your future, of what you would feel and look like in the future? And they said, okay. So instantly she's there and she's in trance and she's just smiling, you know. And I said, how was that? And she says, oh, it just felt so good, you know. And I forget what the setting was, but things were going really good in her life. She loved herself. And I've done that with a few clients about asking the council if they can have, if they follow this advice, if they make the changes, if they forgive people they need to forgive, change their habits, and in the way that these guides on the other side, like these amazing life coaches over there do. And they so far they have not refused. They've given, everyone we've asked has been able for a moment to see what a you know, a future could look like for them. And that's, you know, and then I have them memorize that feeling while they're there. I says, just feel how good that feels that you've made these changes and you've done all this work and how good it feels, and memorize it. So when you come back out of trance, you can still kind of have that in you to give you motivation, you know,
Exactly.
to make that. So, you know, it's pretty cool, you know, all these things we're learning now.
It
Oh,
is. And that's the thing, is it's about, you know, I would say that I have learned the experience that I've got from holding love with myself and holding love in myself, that whatever has happened outside of me, I get through it okay-ish.
yeah.
I get through it okay-ish, you know, and I'm saying ish because it's a perfectly imperfect dance as we walk in life. And
Hmm.
so, you know, it's coming back to the more that I have love filling me up, the less I'm blown around. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
have a little bit more knowing. And so Paula says, I appreciate your safe space to learn and grow. It's refreshing and very comfortable. I actually get bummed out when I miss you guys live. Thank you, Paula.
Thanks,
You are
Paula.
such a blessing. You know,
Because all
that's
we're doing, we're just talking about, I mean, but it's nice, like with Paula there and Ward and Veronica's there a lot. The people listen. It's just like us getting together in the living room and talking about
exactly.
getting through this life in the best possible way, or how to be, you know, how to be happy by being more loving and kind, you know. So
Mhm.
it's nice. We could talk about it all the time, but it's nice because you don't usually get to talk about that with people, you know. You just have to
Exactly.
talk about just earthly stuff, you know. So it's good. So if anybody wants to
So
get a hold of
what,
me,
so
oh,
yeah,
what?
no, real quick here. What do you think about one love approach? One love approach.
I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, because I can say that I have one love that is for my husband. I have another love, but they're all incorporated under all the love.
Maybe he
You know,
means one love, just love everything and everybody.
I can say that that
No.
would be melancholy. It would be a little bit of a um because you know, someone who, you know, maybe is an angel that comes down and is, you know, totally, I can say that I have compassionate love for everyone. And then I add a little bit more on of a different human love towards my husband, you know, where I can have more of a husband wife relationship with him, right? And
Yeah.
so there's a little bit more added on. So I would say one love for everyone around the world, but then I have a little bit different, like then I have a little bit of salt and pepper on for my kids that are different for each of my kids,
Yeah.
right? And then I have a little bit of love. I have big love, like my stepson has gotten in with in a relationship with a woman who has two more boys. So now there's three boys who I can love. Now, do I love them any less than my grandson that I held as a new baby, right? No, but yet there's a little bit more love added on that's a little different for my grandson that's in my mind
Yeah.
than I have for those guys. But I'm gaining more knowledge of them so I can love them as they are. So
Yeah.
it's more, that's where Ward's conversation about if you don't know them, it's hard to put the knowing love onto someone, you
Yeah.
know, and that's not restrictive at all. But like last night when one of them was kind of, you know, he's a kindergartner, so he was starting to go through my person, his mom says, redirect your not your attentions there, little one. And I looked at him and I was like, but that was a boundary. It wasn't a dislike or now I don't like you,
Yeah.
you know, which a lot of people do. I just kind of politely said, that's a boundary.
Yeah.
But then I was started talking to him again, and you know, hey, you want to take another bite? And you know, it's like I understood those process of learning, and so how one love, yes, for everyone, but then remember that we're human and we're going to have a little bit added on of knowledge of other people that you can add in a little bit more into your compassionate love of the humanness.
Yeah.
You know,
I
that's a
like the way you
little
said
different.
that, like to add on, you know, because it doesn't mean you love someone less and somebody more. Does she love everybody? But then some of them have these little add-ons. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
a
different
knowledge
way of looking
add-on.
at it. I
Yeah,
like that.
it's a different add-on. So we're gonna have to, we may revisit this conversation
Yeah,
again because
this
I
is great
really
today.
feel,
I loved
yeah.
everybody's comments and everything today. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, it's visittheafterlife.com. I have a regular therapy practice. I specialize in PTSD, and fears, phobias, anxiety, that sort of thing. We do it over Zoom. And then with the Newton Institute, I do the life between life sessions. Sometimes they're 5 hours long, sometimes 6 hours. We're in a deep state of trance. You get to go to the other side, and we find out everybody's got a little God switch in them when you get to a real deep state of trance, which is the same feeling. It's the same feeling as what you feel when just the second before you fall asleep, when you get really, really relaxed. That's all that it is. And I keep you in that state so you're able to transcend this world and kind of go to the next and have a ball. But there's all kinds of things that you can do, that way. And we do it on Zoom even. I did one this for someone that's about 800 miles away this week. And for the first time, I was able to record the video and audio on Zoom, and be able to send them the video of it so they can actually see themselves going through the process. People remember most of it, but there's a lot of little things that they forget, like a dream you have that's really powerful and you remember the gist of it, but you don't remember the little things. So people re-listen to that. And like I say, they get so much information that Natasha's helped some of my clients sometimes, even after the session, where they can kind of break things down, kind of come up with some kind of game plan. She's a real good life coach that way, of helping people to decipher a lot of what they have are having trouble, because it's so much information.
It is, and it's beyond sometimes our understanding of knowing that we've learned yet. And so sometimes we need a bridge that helps us to cross over into that new knowing. And I'm grateful to be I was called a bridge by Mother Mary, by the way.
Yeah. One thing I realized too now is just how many people Mother Mary's working with, right? Mother Mary is working with so many, because I always used to think, when one person said, well, I Mother Mary, I work with Mother Mary, and then I hear another person work with her, and I go, no, you can't be, because this other person's working with Mother Mary. And then I realized, no, because the way it works over there, just like Angel Gabriel, in one of the sessions this last week, she had a regular guide, and he turned her over to Angel Gabriel. And it was because that needed to be more specific. It was like Angel Gabriel's, he was able to help my client better than this other guy. So that was interesting, and had him describe to him what he looked like and all that. And then he said, well, Angel Gabriel may appear different to different people, but he'll appear in a way that, that doesn't scare you, or in a way that's acceptable to you. So sometimes they might have the wings, sometimes he might have a business suit, I forget one of them. She said, well, he's dressed in his red cloak, or I don't know. It was just interesting because I have people to describe it different ways. But how do you see him, Natasha? When you look up sometimes, you go, oh, Angel Gabriel's here, and he's telling you or guiding you in some way. And do you have an actual, like, if you were a painter, would you be able to paint him?
I would if I go deeper into it. When I get messages from someone, I see an essence. I see a being. I see love. I see compassion. When I see Jesus, I see just a loving being. When I see Mother Mary, I see a more feminine, loving being. And so with that it's more about beings. Now, if I want to go deeper and spend more time, yes, definitely. I would totally, and even just saying that, I get a deeper look on them. So it's one of those things. But Paula says, I think it's a great love is a great baseline as a collective that don't know about love. And I do that actually when I'm driving down the highway and I see homeless, or that I just send love, because and if they want to receive it, they get a chance to receive. And Man on the Moon, thank you for saying this. I have a lot of love, but I don't know how to express it. Be. I'm going to say be. When you walk into a grocery store, be love. Be kindness, be expression, be a person who has loving boundaries. Hey, thank you. Sorry, I bumped into you. I didn't mean to bump into you. Oh, wait a minute. You bumped into me. I'm sure you were, I send blessings on your way. Be you, be kindness, be I walk into a classroom a lot of times and people say, hi, I just love it when you walk in because
Yeah.
I am the I am be. So if
Yeah.
that gives you any idea, it's not about pushing your love onto somebody.
Right.
They have to be willing to receive it. I be, and that love is available for whoever wants it.
Yeah, love is expressed. I mean, the way to express all the time is just through kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kindness is love expressed. So even if it's just picking up a piece of trash someone dropped, or smiling at someone that you see, or not even smiling, but walking by somebody and inwardly just saying, "I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you." That's a great exercise, and that energy. I mean, if you were watching energies, if you were passing someone and you did that, you'd see a little love ball, as I call it, like a love snowball,
Mm-hmm.
and making them better that way. And it can be done. It can be done even as if you're praying or you're in meditation, whatever, and you just think about that, sending the people you have and just saying, I love you, mom. I love you, dad. Inwardly, I love you. And then again, seeing yourself, I love you, self. Kind of
Yeah.
thing like that. So, yeah,
Well,
that's a way to express it.
exactly. And Ward, I'm going to give you an example. So I walk into a classroom, let's say, and there's kids at different levels, right? I actually, because I'm an energy seer, I see love going around and through and be.
Mm.
And sometimes the classroom gets whooshed around with love, and then there's some that the love, they say, oh, I want to feel that love, and so the love wraps around them like a blanket, right? And then there's
Mm.
some that it just goes, whoop, wait a minute, they're in the wrong place for love right now because they're maybe throwing a fit or getting angry or something like that,
Oh,
and it's opposite. So I see the love actually going around them. So it's never for me to push me on to people.
yeah.
They have to be willing to receive, and so I just offer by being love when I walk in. So um, hard to accept it, to receive it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
that's the thing is that when we push our things on other people, not for me. That's discernment, and that's the way I run my intuitive work too. That it's like unless you're willing to do the work, or want to come for a session,
You know,
or
yeah.
be here and listen and receive a truth that if you want to have it, you can have it. You know what I mean?
That would make another good show is how do we, because me included, have had a lifetime of having a hard time accepting love, even compliments sometimes. I have a hard time. I want
Mm.
to push them away a little bit, but you want we have
Why
to
don't we
learn
do?
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why don't we do our show next week on how do we express what we want to express
Okay.
to others, or something like that.
Yeah. How do we, or the, how to express love, how to receive love, because there's
Mm.
two different things. Something we'll talk about that, but yeah, you
Yeah.
guys today, see, you're giving us all these great ideas
Yeah.
because I'd
Thank
like to
you.
explore them more because they've helped me for
Yes.
sure.
Yes. But
You
we
know,
are way over.
way over. Well, we had a good group today,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
Natasha, they go hold of you through angelicclarifications.com, right? If they
Angelic
want to
clarification.
have a session.
Exactly. And I would love to support you through my spiritual counseling, through understanding the stretch and pull of being human, and that coming out of depression to finding ourselves, coming through grief and going through there and getting a perspective. And like I was sitting down with someone this weekend on in an intuitive fair that I was at, and he sat down and says, I got something and it'll probably surprise you. And I go, I don't get surprised.
Yeah.
I have knowings that are beyond what I can say. So with that, and I have a blanket that spreads pretty thick on my knowings. So with that I love to work with you because I understand a lot of oddity that other think is odd, and I'm just thinking that's just normal. So
Yeah.
so blessings to you all. You can reach me at angelicclarifications.com. We are here on Monday and Wednesdays. Wednesdays, I'm get back again on with life clarifications with Natasha, and I'm really not sure what I'm going to talk about yet. I haven't gotten the download yet, So
Yeah.
I'm getting one, but yet I'm not going to say it right now. So with that, the Mondays and Wednesdays, we will back here Monday at 4:00 Pacific time on my YouTube channel, Natasha Venter, and then on my Facebook channel, Natasha Venter AC. Both of them are AC. Sorry about that. Natasha Venter AC. This is on podcast. So if you know of anybody who likes these types of shows and they listen to podcasts, Life Clarification with Natasha is the podcast, and these shows go on those podcasts. So please share, like, and invite people to watch us, because we are loving to support people. This world is a hard place to be, and we just want to bring enlightenment to that. And we're on Spotify and everything like that. So blessed be to you, and please like, share, and follow. And we will see you on Wednesday at 4:00 Pacific time, and or next Monday Pacific time.
Yeah.
4:00
See you all
Pacific
then.
time. Okay, bye now.
Bye.